Hello everybody and welcome back inside the box for another episode of Gunpla Kitbash with me, Kukamatsu. In this episode, the modifications are complete, it's time to paint. So, let's jump right in. Okay folks, here we are. The modifications for this kit are complete. We made the feet a little bit wider, opened up the legs and put in some mechanical kitbash. We added some detail on the skirts, added new arms and put some extra detail on those, added some detail to the pauldrons, changed the orientation of the backpack. Time now to tear this guy apart and prepare it for painting. Okay, time to do some color mixing. Here are the examples of all the parts that we need colors for. I'm not going to stick exactly with these colors. I want to find a combination that is sort of in the neighborhood of these colors. It still says Strike Rouge, but it's not exactly this. So let's put these back here. What I'm using is Tamiya Acrylic Paint. This is a flat red XF7. This is not a water-based paint. A lot of people think that it is. It's not. It's a lacquer paint, but it lives in this kind of weird zone between water-based paint and true lacquer paints, which means it is very easy to clean up because you can use water to clean up. So let's start mixing some colors and just see what we get. This is XF2 flat white. Putting a little bit in there to see kind of what red we end up with. Don't want to go overboard, just add it slowly in. You can see that the pink I'm getting, or the light red I'm getting, is much warmer than the kit pink. The reason for that is that, generally speaking, red pigments will either mix well to a warm color or mix well to a cool color, but the same red can't generally do both. And it looks like this red is mixing to a warmer color naturally. So this red would make a good orange. It would not really make a good purple, although I have made purple out of it before. And so what I'm wondering is, if I put just a tiny little bit of blue in there, is it going to make it gray or is it going to make it pink? This is flat blue XF8. I'm just going to put the tiniest amount in there, see what happens. It does make it a little bit more of a gray pink, but it's a color I actually like. A little bit less saturated. That's not too bad. Maybe I'll just add a little bit more white to that, brighten it up a little bit. I do tend to tone down the saturation of my colors a little bit in Gundam kits, just to get a little bit more towards realism. Really liking that color. That's a nice color. So we have that. Now we need a darker version of that to get this color. Let me just start with red and blue. It's giving us a nice kind of deep red. And then from there we would need, see if I can get enough of this out of here. Maybe I'll just leave it there and add some white to that. I think that's still actually going to be too intense. Let's just put a little bit of this over here and add a bunch of white to this. Just want a very subtle pink. Almost the kind of color, if you looked at it on its own, you would think it was white. It's only when you see it next to something white that you think, oh, that's pink. I think that might be it there. I have this pot of flat white that I put a little bit of yellow into previously. And I like to use this for when parts are meant to be pure white, and it just warms it up a little bit. The flat white, the Tamiya flat white, is quite a cool white, so this just gives that little bit of warmth to it. Instead of black, I'm thinking of using this Sea Blue XF17. It's a very dark blue. Well, I think that was relatively straightforward. I like those colors. All right, it's time to start painting. I am going to show you my process on this part, and I will do all the other part off camera. Just want to show you first, I use a Iwata Revolution CR airbrush. I have never used any other airbrush other than this one, so unfortunately I can't give you a comparison, but I do love this brush. Iwata is known as a great airbrush, and this is, as long as you take care of it, then you have no problems with it. I've been using this for many years and still loving it. I'm going to be priming the model with Tamiya Acrylic NATO Black XF69. Because it's a lacquer paint and not a water-based paint, it actually does work as a primer. as it sort of etches into the plastic. I thin it down with X20A thinner, which is made specifically for this paint. Other thinners work, I think, but that's the one I use. And I'm just going to go over each part in light coats, taking my time. My air pressure is about 20 psi. Tamiya acrylics dry almost as soon as they hit the part, if you do it in light coats. The nice thing about that is I don't end up creating a cloud of paint in the air. That is step one. Normally step two would be to go straight to white and paint just on the higher surfaces away from the cracks and stuff like that as a kind of shadow coat that would show through the final color. What I find with that though is that when the final color is white or close to white, then that black just shows through a little bit too black. So I'm trying a new intermediate step this time, which is going to be to put some XF flat red over the black to just make it not straight black that's going to show through. To end up with a nice dark red instead of a black for the shadow pass. And next I'm going to use XF2 flat white as the highlight pass. I'm just adding this to the sort of the center of the panels, leaving the edges and any seam lines kind of darker with the red. And next up is to use our custom light pink, and you could actually just spray this over the whole surface now in light coats, and it would allow some of this stuff to show through. But today I'm going to try a new technique just to get a little bit more of a mottled surface. I'm going to spray through this camo stencil. This is a Vallejo stencil. The idea is just that it's going to create a little bit more variation in the surface as the paint goes on, and it'll be a very, very, very subtle effect. Just moving the part around, and now that I kind of have that modeling effect on there, I'm just going to give it a slight once over, very, very light, just to unify it a little bit, to make it a little bit less contrasty. It's looking pretty great. Very subtle, like I said, so hopefully gives it a little extra feeling of scale. Decided to try an experiment and just do a slightly different sequence to see if I get a better result. I'm going to start by priming with white. Step 2 will be a coat of just straight red. And step 3 will be the light pink through the camo stencil. Now that I have it at this phase, I'll just give it a unifying coat. Okay, let's compare that to what I did the first time. You know, definitely more of an overall pink feel to that. This first one, even though it's the same color, light pink, it turned out really, really white. And since it is a Strike Rouge, I want to have some of that pink showing through. And once I start doing grunge washes and weathering and that kind of stuff, chipping on the edges, it's going to dull all that down anyway. So I want it to be definitely pink before I start that. Whereas that one just really looks white. It's amazing how that works. This one I think is my preferred option. So I'm going to go ahead and do that on all those parts. So for the darker pieces like this, I'm going to use my old strategy, which is to prime with the NATO Black XF69. Then I'll do a white highlight coat and then the final color on top of that. There we go, all the panels are painted. That was a lot of work, but it's looking pretty good. I can't wait to see it all together. And that is the end of the episode. In the next episode, I'll be showing you my metal painting process on the inner frame. So if you enjoyed the video, I'd appreciate it if you give me a like down below. Check out the playlist for previous videos. Subscribe if you want to follow along, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.